Hello everyone, my name is Theo, and today we're going to take a look at how I installed this 2DIN Android multiplayer with reverse camera, front camera, and a lot of other stuff. It also works with my steering wheel controls and my iPhone. And in this video I'm going to show you how I installed it, how the wiring is, and how it works. I hope this will be helpful for you. Enjoy, and if you want, feel free to like, subscribe, comment, and share. This is what I started with. You can see that the upper storage compartment is present and the lower media player or stereo player is still there. That's the original one. I took out the upper storage compartment and then I figured out how the media player would look. This is when I cut the connector off of the original media player and I compared to see what I need. Here again I made a mock-up install and the wiring was started so I could test the media player. Here I started to work on the upper storage compartment. I had to drill in the cover and then also the bottom side I had to cut one of the sides and bend it so that the wires would go through. Then I also glued it in such a way that it looked okay and painted it back. This is the wiring harness. On the right side is just wiring going to the media player, and on the left it's going to the front and rear camera. Also, this is the wiring for the back where I put my rear camera power. I used the reverse light power supply as I used for my rear parking sensors, and how I traced all the wiring to the car for my rear camera signal wire. This is the cover that I installed. It's a plate cover with a camera on it. I added some sound deadening so that it doesn't rattle. If you have a Forester, you know that the back plate always rattles. As you can see, there are two screws on the upper side and nothing else holding it down. So whenever you close or open the rear hatch, it will rattle. This is how I modified the clock housing. I wanted to have a cruise light because my Forester doesn't come with a cruise light in the dashboard. It comes with a cruise light in the button, but I replaced my button with one on the steering wheel. So I needed another way to see if my cruise control is on or off. This is how it looks like on. And of course I also painted everything the same gray that I have on the steering wheel and other parts of the car. With this occasion I also built another pocket in the middle where the original stereo was. And this is how I started to work on the upper storage compartment on the 2DIN housing, on the multimedia player housing. You can see that I took some plastic sheet that I cut in smaller bits, then I glued it together, and then I used some filler to make it all look together. That I had to sand off and then put some more filler and sand, and you can see here the markings where I still had to add some filler, and in the end I sanded everything off and I painted it with rubberized paint, and this is how it looks in the end. For the front camera I installed some buttons, as you can see here in the ashtray. I'm not a smoker, so I'm not using the ashtray, so I installed two buttons, one for the front camera and one for the front auxiliary lights, not yet installed. And as you can see, this is also the place where I positioned the USB sockets for the media multiplayer, and I also included the auxiliary input here. And then For the camera install, I had to modify the front grille, where I took the original grille out, and these are the components that it has. As you can see, it's a plastic with a frame, and also the badge has one frame around it. I painted the frames black, and the badge I modified it, and also I cut all the plastic from inside the front grille, and I put an aluminum sheet, and I also modified the badge because it was peeling off, and I made it in such a way that you can turn on the light behind the stars. I'm not sure if I'm gonna use that anytime, but it's an option that I wanted to have. And as you can see, on the top of the grille, right above the badge, I positioned the front camera.
And I'll show you how all the wires and the wiring in general is done. So first I'm gonna start with what this player has. It's a 2DIN Android 10.1 7-inch I believe player. It has steering wheel controls that work. These are original Subaru steering wheel controls. This steering wheel is off of 2011 Impreza. Then we have, it's got two USB ports, auxiliary, I guess it's got auxiliary video too, but I'm not using that. I'm just using the auxiliary audio, GPS, Wi-Fi. It's got Bluetooth phone connection, and it works with an iPhone, so it automatically connects to my phone when I get into the car. And also I can play music from my phone, but I can control my phone, you know, forward, backwards, play, stop from the player. Then it's got a rear camera for reverse, and I just added a front camera that's actuated from a button. And let's see, this is the cable harness, the wire harness that goes to the player, and this is the main cable that it's right here. You can see this is the car's cable, and I took off the plug from the old stereo player and just mated all the wires to my new player. Then these two wires are the steering wheel controls, they go to the steering wheel. Then these four wires, this is the audio, so auxiliary. Yeah, this is auxiliary input. This is one of the USB cables just for charging. This is the USB cable that has also data transfer, and this is probably the antenna, yeah. Then this is the front camera, I believe, and here we have the rear camera. You see, it's basically the same setup. Also, this is the cable that I made for my camera setup. You can see I just took the rear in wire that's right here, so it's this pink one. Let me take it out. It just says back. Yeah, you see, it just says back. It goes into another wire with this connector, which then goes, you can see it's further down, you can see the brown wires. So the brown wire, it goes here, and it's this little plug. Okay, this is for the signal. So whenever you put the car in reverse, the camera sends 12 volts via this wire, which sends it via this back wire, and this activates the camera automatically on the player. Now I tried it without just by connecting the two wires from the two cameras together, so that when I put it in reverse, it activates and takes the video input from this camera, and when I push the button, it takes the video input from this front camera. But it doesn't really work like that in real life. And whenever it activates, it takes the input from both cameras, so you get a distortioned video, which shows like half of the front camera and half of the back camera. So for this, I just soldered into the wire directional diode, which then just sends power in this direction, so towards the player. This way, when you activate this, wire, it doesn't also send 12 volts to this wire, and vice versa. So whenever you activate one of the cameras, it sends only towards the player. Of course, if I activate both cameras at the same time, so I press the button and also put it in reverse, this will still get me the same result where I get the distortion video, but that's not an issue. So I just have to be careful about that. Okay, so all this wiring, as you know, or maybe you don't. So all this wiring goes through that hole in there, and in there, comes out here and to the back of the player, and then everything is built inside here. So the whole wiring harness goes through here, up there. It gets above the climate vent. It goes around there and then goes through the pocket, up and behind the player, under the cover. Okay, so then this is the wiring harness, the camera setup. If we come down here, I told you about the two USBs and the audio input, and also the camera button. Everything is built into this. You can see I've got the two USBs. This is just for charging, this is for data transfer and charging, and this is the auxiliary input, audio input. And then I've got two buttons. First one will be for some front lighting. I want to build into the grill some LED bars or something. And then this is gonna be for the camera. Whenever I push the button, it activates the camera, like when I put it in reverse. I'm gonna show you how my multimedia player works. It's not yet completely mounted. I still have to mount everything up, the cover and everything, and also the wires. I need to put some zip ties on them, but I'll show you how my front camera, rear camera and auxiliary input work. So for the player to turn on, you just have to have the key and accessories. You can see it's a multiplayer that has Android 10.1. It's a 7-inch. So this is the basic interface that it comes with. It's got music, Bluetooth, radio, settings, and video. You can have, I've got Deezer installed, Waze, YouTube, and other applications that you want, like Chrome. And you can also access the internet if you have a hotspot or a Wi-Fi connection that you can connect to. It's able to connect to Wi-Fi. It's got GPS. It's got dual USB ports that I took and put over here. One is just for charging and one is for data transfer too. Auxiliary input, as I said. Usually it has also video in and also out, but I'm not using that. I don't need video in. I just use audio in. For the audio part to work, I had to go into settings. I think it's from here into these settings, and I believe it was special settings on 88. Yeah, and from here somewhere, let me see. No, not car settings. AV out, it's off. Video player, auxiliary input, auxiliary audio on. It was turned on off, so whenever I was going into video, it was just expecting video and no audio, so my auxiliary input didn't work at first. But then if you enter the options with 8888 on this one as a password, you can turn on the audio, and then whenever you go to video in, it shows, actually plays whatever you've got on audio. So first I'm gonna show you that all the buttons work. Hopefully all are gonna work when I'm showing you. So for this one, let me mute. I will mute. You see it muted, and we'll go into radio. Okay, I'm muted. And then you can see that I can change the stations from here. Also, if I want to connect to my phone, it usually connects automatically via Bluetooth. I've got Bluetooth phone interface, which is this. Whenever I go here, you see my iPhone, and I can go through calls. Okay, it's not connected right now, but I can go through calls and through I think this is an agenda or something like that. And I can see whoever I called, and I can call directly from the application, or I can use my phone. So whenever I press this, if I long press the phone button, I set it up for Waze. Of course, it's not gonna work right now because I don't have an internet connection. Actually, yeah, I do have Wi-Fi connected from the house, but I'm not gonna go into anything there. So I can shut that up. Then, of course, this one will end my call. I've got this button that's for speak, because my interface doesn't have that kind of button. I can show you. Steering wheel type, it's learning type. I think it's here. Yeah. So I don't want to reset anything, but you can see we've got these buttons that you can set up. You can set them up in long press and short press. I've got power, mute, previous, next, volume up, volume down, volume up, home, play, pause, hang up, answer, search, band, back, shuffle, repeat, equalizer, navigation, talk, and auxiliary. For navigation, you can set up somewhere in the settings whatever app you are using for navigation. And oh, I see I've got auxiliary already set up. This is a long press. I think I know which one it is. Hopefully, so this is Waze long press. This is, I think it turns off to media, yeah. And then this has to be auxiliary. See, it shows video only. I've got my iPod Shuffle connected, and I will see. It works from here. And this is on video only. Then if I press mode, I can go to radio, Bluetooth, A2DP, which is the Bluetooth music, video, and auxiliary in, which I was just in. And this is radio. Okay, let's go into radio. It's gonna start doing something. I think if I press long, it gives me this interface where I can shut everything off. Okay, so that's the basic setup for the player. This is how the camera setup works like. I showed you the buttons and everything. So whenever you have accessory on, I can turn on the front camera, and if I turn on the front camera on the button, it looks like this. And if I turn on the ignition, I can also put it in reverse, and I have the rear camera. So rear camera and front camera on the button. Yeah, so as I told you previously, this unit also has video in, but with video in you have to press the button and also go through the settings to get to the auxiliary input in order to get the image on the screen. And either way, if you have that, you can use the image on the screen for front camera,
and when you put it in reverse, it switches automatically to reverse. But right now I've got both the front camera and the rear camera on the same rear input, and whenever I push the button, it shows me the front camera, and if I put it in reverse, you will see that I get the reverse camera, but it's not completely, so it's gonna be a mix between the two. You can see it like this. You see also some part of the back, and right now if I turn off the front camera, it shows me the rear camera only. So that's reverse, this is front, and I guess that's all. Right now I have the whole complete system working. Buttons, all the buttons, 2 USB inputs, 1 auxiliary input, front camera, rear camera. It's got Wi-Fi. I can use Waze. I don't know. I think the only thing missing would be a little bit more response from this. I mean, not response as in just the way it moves, but whenever you have multiple applications running parallel, it kind of lags, like Waze and Deezer, but those are both using internet, so I guess it's a bit much for 1 GB of memory. But I think it's a pretty good setup, and it looks kind of original with this position. I can also have this going up. So yeah, if you enjoyed this, please comment if you didn't like it, or if you think I could have made something differently or better or worse. I guess you can comment that also. So this is, I would say that I have to put everything back together, and this kind of ends this side of the modifications. Maybe I still have to modify some lighting, but I think that's kind of all. There will be still some things coming up in the future, but we'll see when we'll get to those. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.